Hi, my name is Razak and I'm currently studying a Master of Business in Entrepreneurship at Monash University, Australia. Real talk, learning business at Monash University has been one of the most rewarding experiences in my life, and one of the most exciting things I learned about this semester is something called VC game simulation. So it's basically a simulation part of the class called Value Creation in Startup, taught by Joe Panuzzo and Kim Sailing. Kudos to you guys, mad respect. Alright, if you're wondering about VC game simulation, here's how it works. In this game, you compete as a startup founders or venture capital. Alright, founders raise money by selling shares, then invest in PPE and R&D and marketing to grow fast and win market share. The goal, you have to end with the highest founder share value. For VCs, you buy shares in startups and help them grow, aiming for the highest return on investment. And it's honestly one of the best ways to learn about how startup grows and how investors really think. Super fun, super real, exactly the kind of thing I dreamed of doing in my life. So love it. And in this video, I'd like to explain 3 things I learned about this VC game simulation from the venture capitalist perspective and from the startup founder's perspective. Let's go. Okay, now I'm gonna talk about how it feels to be a venture capitalist in the simulation game. You know, at first I was like, you could just throw all your money to any startups that you think it would be good. But then I got lazy. I stopped checking in and assumed that startup would manage themselves just because I told them to. And you can just relax and see how it will go, right? No, it's wrong. Some of them actually did very terrible, and I'm sorry for the startups because I did not pay attention to that. However, being a VC means you have to be strategist. You have to see the value of a startup that creates, and I'm not just talking about the idea here. It's all about making value in terms of the money. How do you financially operate your business to generate more value and gain more revenue? That's the keyword. So some of the question of the VC would be, first, are they efficient with their PPE? Second, how do they manage their marketing and R&D spending? Third, what's their cash flow look like? Fourth, are they profitable? How big is the margin? What's the margin ratio? And you can only figure this out if you actually understand how accounting works, if you know how balance sheet works, income statement works, cash flow report works. And these 3 things are very fundamental in understanding the business. So for any one of you who does not know how the accounting works, business is not for you, my guy. I'm sorry. You can't be a good venture capitalist without understanding these 3 things. So learn accounting, my guy. And here's where I really messed up. I was given 250k to invest, but I didn't spread it out across startups. Instead, I spent most of it spending on something called investment reputation. So in a real world, it might look like you put every money to the media, any public relation to show that you are the best. However, this is a big mistake because the main goal of VC is to invest, not just trying to impress. So the smartest thing would have been about use most of the money to invest and forecasting the demand and calculate how much return and each startup could generate. That's how you would play as a venture capitalist. Now let's go to the startup founder's reflection. Yes, I also played this role, and this time I took it very seriously. So I spent literally 7 days glued to my laptop, become an obsession because seeing your revenue grow in real time is kind of addictive, you know. So lesson number 1, be operationally effective and efficient. Most startups in simulation did not know how to manage their operations very well, and as a result, they wasted money. Since the market size in the simulation was fixed, we had to forecast how it would grow over time and adjust our production capacity accordingly. In the real world, every dollar matters. You know, you would see a lot of startup founders and business owners wasted their money on inefficient operation spending, which is something that could have been used for marketing or R&D. And both of these factors really important to gain your market share and hence generate more revenue. Lesson number 2, understand value creation and finance. And when I'm talking about the value here, I'm not only talking about the idea, I'm talking about the money. I'm talking about how to generate the revenue. And when I'm talking about the finance here, I'm talking about how you get that money to get more money. In this game, I focus on 4 key things. First, I calculate the revenue through the market size times by the market share I have. Second, I optimize the cost, which I have to make it very efficient on my PPE and the operation rate. Third, the most important thing is maintaining your market share. This determines how much revenue I can get from the pie market share. Last but not least, managing your cash flow. Because once your cash hits 0, you're done. You're done. Even if you're profitable, no. Cash is king. And therefore, you have to constantly check your income statement and your cash flow report. So lesson number 3, my biggest mistake as a founder. Everything was going well. I forecasted demand, grew my market share, gradually invested in R&D, and even marketing, and even secured funding while keeping 83% of the vendor equity. I was in the top 3 market share by quarter 7, but then I messed up. I suddenly realized that the game was judged by founders' share value in the last quarter based on the cash on hand and the revenue. So in the middle of the night, I asked my investor at that time, Zach, and I said to him, hey, even if we are top 1, I don't think we will win in the top 8 if you don't invest that much on R&D, right? So I panicked and I dumped like 100k something into R&D and marketing, even though I only had 45k in my cash. Guess what? I went bankrupt, of course. But however, I made an epic comeback though, from negative earnings to being a top 5 in the founder share. Something that I can be proud of myself. So what's the biggest lesson here? I would say from my perspective, the most important is don't get emotional if you don't have a solid financial plan. And I think it also works in real life. You don't want it to be like very reactive. You also have to think about your preparation on your cash flow and your revenue. So even if you can have the best product, but if you run out of cash, you are dead, my friend. That's true in the game and the real world. So this simulation is really helpful for me to understand how the business works. And that's my story. If you enjoy this, please subscribe, give it a like, and share it with your friends who also want to learn to be a business owner. I hope it inspires you to become smarter and stronger entrepreneur. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.